Okay, awesome. You can go on right ahead. Thank you, Jovian, for your patience. Thank you so much.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can
Advocating
see your
for.
screen. Yes, I can. I hope we all can see her screen. Is there anybody with that?
So, yeah, thank you, Jordan, for inviting me to be part of this. And Jenny and Jordan, thank you for that really informative talk. I'm super excited to actually be working with Jordan and Times New on our brand for Social Tech Labs. Coming up next week, we have our kickoff. So I was just getting goosebumps about like all the knowledge and perspective and authenticity that you bring to like branding, and I'm really excited to be working with you. So that was great. I'm really glad I got to catch some of that. Um, so I want to talk about advocating for yourself in Web3 and specifically DAOs. Can I find out here how many of you have contributed to a DAO or are contributing to a DAO currently? How do I find this out? I'm gonna go here.
Is there a text channel maybe we can all be commenting in?
Oh, maybe there's a text channel. We need to be able to talk for this.
There's one called questions for your speaker. Maybe we all comment in there.
Questions for your speaker. Yeah. So the question is, how many of us have contributed in a DAO or in a Web3 community? Okay, great. Jordan and Jenny. Niche. Is it Nick or niche?
Niche.
It's niche.
Niche. I'm new to DAOs. Okay, cool. Well, this was informative. Sweet. All right, awesome. I'll let those roll in. If anything interesting comes in that channel and I miss it, please like shout it out, because I'm trying to be all over my computer right now and I'm on like a laptop. So a little bit about me. We're going to be talking more about DAOs than like Web3 communities because DAOs are a specific type of workplace, and that's what my experience is in, and that's what I actually study. So a little bit about me. I've been working in DAOs for 2 years. I've been focused mainly in like operations and community roles, but I also have done some deeper research projects. So I was a research analyst for Aragon Association, and we did a research cohort studying organizational structures in DAOs, seeing how many various ways DAOs organize work and get things done using a combination of real communication and their decentralized tooling. I recently did a project with Meta Gamma Delta. We did research into identity and how people experience discovering themselves in Web3 spaces, especially around the topic of gender, because there's definitely a skewed masculine environment in Web3 spaces, which can be very different for people who are coming in with other identities. I did research at Diamond DAO. We did more quantitative research at Diamond DAO into, like, for instance, what quantifies a community, what kind of tensions are in a network that quantify a community. Can those things be measured? That's just one example of something we studied. Yeah, so all these experiences have led me to found Social Tech Labs. And Social Tech Labs is the world's first Web3 native research institute focused on social technology. And social technology is not tooling. So social technology is our behavior. So if we look at our behavior as technology and we look at ourselves as something that can be programmed, like culturally programmed, socially programmed, when we are doing things really well together, it's like our technology is working really well. So social technology is oftentimes related to democracy. It can be related to social change, like positive social changes. I like to use the example of recycling. So if you have a city that's producing a lot of waste, and you've got a science team that's like, hey, there's this thing called recycling. You could do it, and it would actually improve a lot of the things that are going on in your society. And then, the governor or whoever's like, okay, well, build us the recycling plant. But you can't just build a recycling plant and poof, you have recycling. You actually have to build a culture of pro-recycling, pro-environmental behavior, and you have to practice, and you have to have social reinforcement, and you need to make beautiful colored bins, you need to have beautiful marketing campaign, you need to have people talking to each other about recycling, you need to build pride for these positive behaviors, and you have to re-educate the public and let them know that, yeah, they've been throwing a lot of things in the trash and it's been affecting their environment, and that if they want to work together, they can create a better future for their city. So all of those things are the social technology.
Hey everybody, I love you guys.
And in Web3 and in tech, we have a huge focus on the tools. We have a huge focus on the bare essential, the rails. Like, okay, we have this new token. It's an ER, whatever. And it's like, it's going to work like this. And it's like, well, the tool is not the movement. The movement is people getting behind it, people finding use and meaning in it, and people deciding to use the technology to create beautiful social changes that actually resonate and impact the society in ways that we want to see. So social technology, that's what social technology is. So we study culture and social change that's happening through Web3 and through the adoption of Web3 technologies. So our first project under this new brand, Social Tech Labs, is a qualitative research project with DAO contributors. And we talked to DAO contributors about how they are meeting their needs in DAOs. So a need is a very human thing. Everyone has needs. I have a need for shelter. I have a need for belonging. I have a need for esteem. I need the esteem of my peers. I have a need to self-actualize. So that's something that's intrinsic to me, that no matter what I'm doing in the world, I'm kind of navigating my needs and making sure my needs are being met. So Web3 opens up these new avenues for engagement in communities or in income generating activities, in intellectual advancement, career advancement. So we want to study how humans are going into these environments and actually meeting their needs. So self-actualizing, reaching their full potential. And this study is underway. And here. I'm not going to show you I need to look at the screen. So I'm just going to show you this version. The presentation, yep. So where was I? So how are you getting your needs met in Web3? So we're doing this study. We just finished data collection. Thank you, Jordan, for participating in that. But people gave us responses about how they're meeting their various needs. in Web3 communities. And Sarah from Be Humane DAO, the founder of the Be Humane DAO, is the lead researcher on this project, and she used Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs before, it goes like food and shelter, and then it goes up the scale, like safety, belongingness, esteem, and then self-actualization. So you can tell we're centering all of our questions around the human being. So this is human-centered research. We're not talking about the accumulation of an external resource as a marker of value or a marker of success. That's a very patriarchal way of looking at value. We're looking at actual use value. So are human beings finding that they can successfully meet needs that they have through their involvement in Web3 communities? So the research is massively interesting. We're moving into the report writing and analysis portion now. We just finished our data collection. But one of the themes that's come up has over and over has been it's difficult to chart a path for yourself in a DAO because, like the rainforest, it's wild and there's so many things going on. There's a lot of collaboration and there's a lot of chaos. So it's difficult for people to chart a career path in a DAO. And even if they are able to do it, sometimes it comes to them in pieces. So, for instance, a common career path in a DAO might be, let me just work for free for a month. Let me just find stuff to do. I found this really tiny bounty project, which is a project that someone put like, for $100, if you create, an invitation to our event, like you can create an invitation to our event and get paid $100. So someone will do a bounty. And then if they hang around long enough, they might find their way into a guild or a sub-team where there's like a piece of the DAO's budget allocated and they get to be a part of that sub-team. And then as the team achieves its goals, they get like a certain amount of money that they make a proposal to the DAO and they get a payment as a part of the team. So those different ways I just talked about are more common, like as like a starter. But some people get stuck for a really long time in the working for free or in the occasional bounty, and they're working pretty damn hard. Meanwhile, they are learning all about Web3 and upskilling and getting excited and falling down the rabbit hole. And lots of time and energy might be going into their new Web3 fascination. So what can happen at this point in time is there can be an imbalance. So the person might be learning a lot, but they're not getting paid, or maybe they're not getting recognized for their work yet, or maybe they're just like kind of confused and scattered. So they might be doing too many projects at the same time, or pieces of projects. They're not getting their esteem needs met because they're not like in a visible position on a team. So I want to talk about advocating for yourself in Web3. And how did I put getting the projects you want or steering your earnings and reputation in the right direction depends on learning how to advocate for yourself. So what does that mean? Advocating for yourself. I just put this in this is for fun. This is the polysexual flag. So advocating for yourself, what does it mean? Like, yay, polysexuality. It's kind of like yay for whatever you are. Like you need to be your own champion. In Web3, there's not going to be many like human resources people who are going to like oversee your path in the DAO. And that is really weird because all the conversations you want to have with like this human resources person, you're kind of having in your head, you're like, well, I did that one project and I think it was good, but I don't know if they really, like, is it good enough? I'm still new. Like, you know, do you think maybe I could ask to be on that guild? Like, oh my God. Like, you're having all of this like internal dialogue rather than having like a guided career path, right? So, or you're asking someone on the team, but you're like maybe not like saying everything you want to talk about. You're just like, hey, so how do I get on that team? And they're like, oh yeah, just show up for that meeting. And you're like, really? I just show up and then I'm on the team, and there's a lot of uncertainty. And in that, okay, so in that uncertainty, what happens is your internal dialogue will take over and interpret the uncertainty. So if you're someone who's like really, really confident, you might be like, they invited me to the guild meeting, I'm in. And if you're someone who's like less confident, or you're feeling less confident at that point in time, you might go to the guild meeting and then you're like, I'm still not in. They won't like my ideas. Like, you know, I probably shouldn't speak up. Like, I'm not going to have any good ideas. And you might like, you know, limit where you go with that. So I have a question to ask. What are some things that might keep you from advocating for yourself? And I'm going to look in the channel. I put imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is like when you feel like an imposter. You're here, you're in Web3, you kind of know some stuff, but you still feel new. You still feel like, well, do I really know my shit? Like, can I really like have a role on this cool, like in this DAO? So imposter syndrome can be something that really holds people back from asking, you know, the questions and pushing themselves forward. Ooh, yeah. Imposter syndrome. This tiny bounty, I know her well. Okay, awesome. Imposter syndrome is a big one. Being shy. Yeah, being shy. What about if you're the only woman in the room? Do you really want to speak up? Having no clarity on the process. No clarity. DAOs spin up really quickly sometimes, and they don't necessarily have a roadmap or a process. And that definitely will hold people back from, you know, being able to see where they fit in. We just need to get to this next deadline times a million. Yeah, short-term thinking. Absolutely. Short-term thinking. Not having like things like really built out. Fear of the unknown. Yes. That's a really good one. Absolutely. Too many things I could be doing. Yes. Yeah. Something that's interesting about DAOs is, okay, think about it. A DAO is like decentralized, right? So supposedly, not sure when to speak up in a conversation. Like some people are more comfortable with interrupting, whilst others kind of wait for their turn to speak, which may never come. Yes. So that's a social dynamic, right? So not leaving space for other people to talk. I am really guilty of not leaving space for others to talk, but in my mind, I'm speaking for them. Which is weird because like, should I really be doing that? But I try to like say all of the vulnerable things. I'm like, well, what about the people who can't? Usually people look at me and they're like, thank you for saying. You do that too. Otherwise, I'm talking the whole time because I just want like us to get all this stuff out. yeah, so wow, oh my gosh, this is really great. Yeah, those invisible social dynamics, like who feels comfortable to talk. Oh my God, that can have so much to do with age, race, class, gender. Like think about all of that stuff, your experience level, your personality type. And should your like career advancement really rely on like how well you perform in the Zoom call? Maybe you have the best ideas.
Sometimes it's so hard to read.
Yes. Yes. Web3 is decentralized and built on a private clubhouses and a tiered role hierarchy. Yes. So, yeah. Okay, I wanna bring this and keep writing things down. This is so interesting. So I want to bring this back to like, well, the structure of a DAO kind of builds things like this situation where you need to advocate for yourself is going like it's going to be pronounced over and over again because of the way DAOs are structured. So DAOs are supposedly mission driven. They have a simple mission, they have a core, and then they're decentralized. And each member of that community has the potential or the resting potential to move the mission forward and propose projects and take ownership. For that reason, there's not usually this management layer. So that where a manager is a person whose job it is to think about other people's job. And we always talk about like, oh, well, that's really annoying. I don't want someone to control me. Like, get rid of managers. But then you get rid of people whose job it is to just sit around and think about other people's jobs. And then you have all these people who are contributors, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do with my job. Like, what are the next steps in my job? So they don't really, like, it's really hard to drive your career forward when you don't have someone who's just, like, thinking about and planning that. All right. So let's go to DAOs are weird. Okay, I pulled a bunch of topics from my my content planning board, just to give like you can read these if you want, but DAOs are different from traditional companies, and they're missing that management layer. They are chaotic. They do change direction. There's a lot of room for like structure to be built. A lot of things are left unbuilt. And in the last talk, one of the brands that was successful, I think it was Tiny Dino, that was successful in engaging its community. I was thinking, what are the conditions that led to that amazing, that the community being able to jump up and step in? And I realized that it was because they had left a lot of room. So there wasn't like a really fixed community plan and roadmap. So the community was able to step up and they had room to do that. So when you leave room, you leave things really uncertain and open, people will either step up or not. So there's power that's there to take if you have the guts to take it. And I think that that's one of the most amazing opportunities that we all can have through our DAO participation is the opportunity to empower ourselves by taking on a responsibility that we never thought we would have before. So it's scary to say, hey, I'm going to be in charge of my own project roadmap. I'm going to be in charge of my own promotion schedule. I'm going to be in charge of my own assignments. But if you say, well, what if I decided what projects I got? And what if I decided when I got promoted? What opportunities would you give yourself? And it's incredible because it's really up to you. So the ceiling becomes is gone. So I wanted to give 3 steps. So the rest of this presentation is going over 3 steps of how to empower yourself or how to advocate for yourself in DAOs. 1, identify your own path. So if you come into a community and you're waiting for someone to say, hey, do this, it might happen, it might not. Or people might read you as like this kind of guy or this kind of gal, but you really want to be this kind of guy or this kind of gal. So identify your own path. It is a good thing if you have some time to experiment a while as a volunteer. That gives you an opportunity to show up, share like your vibe, share your spirit. People logging in, logging out, logging in. Okay. Share your vibe, share your spirit with the community. And that show like action is very, very persuasive. Like if people see you in action as a volunteer, boom, you are on the short list for like the paid work. You need to study, read everything. So try to understand how the organization works. Again, there's not going to be some beautiful, like choreographed 3-week onboarding process where some, amazingly empathic person comes and like presents the community values to you and helps you interpret them and like leads you in a workshop and, takes you to an offsite. Like maybe at some point your community will be evolved to that point. But in the beginning, it's really going into the handbook, read previous proposals, look for the kind of style of the language in the proposals. I know that CabinDAO has a way that every proposal ends. A proposal is, by the way, it's a governance action. So it's like a proposal for either payment or kicking off a project, forming a team. So a proposal is it's the governance action that gets things done in DAOs, that formalizes things. It creates that transparency, and it allows a governance action to happen. So when a proposal is recommended, people can vote for or against it or ask questions. So in CabinDAO on the proposals, when people propose a role, at the end of I should have put this in here. This would have been a cool example. It says, like, I would like to lead retreats for October and November. And I would like to lead retreats in December if everyone is still stoked. And at the end of every proposal, it says, like, and we can continue this if everyone is still stoked. So that's the voice of that DAO, and it's on every proposal, almost every proposal, and it reinforces that everyone should really be passionate about whatever this person's path is, and that path continuing within the DAO as a part of that forward momentum that's taking that DAO forward, as well as taking that individual forward. So CabinDAO has these amazing retreats in Austin. So that person might continue leading those retreats if everyone is still stoked. So read other proposals, read the handbook, find comparable documents, and then really importantly, unlike in a Web2 job, you're not going to find this like beautiful job description that describes your role in detail. Most likely you're going to be doing like a group of tasks that a group of tasks that quantify a work stream. This is a word you might hear a lot, work stream. So it's very Web3, it's very kind of open, chaotic, but you might do a batch of tasks. You're likely not going to be like a product manager, but you might do a product work stream that entails the certain types of tasks that you're good at. So write a description in your own words. And even if you're not ready to present it, be like staying in tune with what it is that you want to do with that DAO so that you like are conscious of your path. Next step. Does anyone have a question? I feel like I'm going like a million miles a minute.
You're doing amazing. This is really great stuff.
It's good. Are we helping people?
Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. I know it's hard to present and not know if anybody's listening, but I'm listening and it's real good stuff. It's real helpful.
Yes, we are. We're listening in. We're soaking up in the knowledge. Jovian, are you there? Or is my system freezing?
I think we might have lost her.
Yeah, I needed to be sure, but I think there are a couple of comments in the chat room. Yeah, people are following right along. Okay, let's just wait a bit to see if she comes back. But does anyone have any questions or comments or feedback? Anything to say about the talk from Jovian? Oh, she's back. Awesome.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, I think she'll come back again.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can hear you. Can we all hear her?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, I hope that gave you like a nice little break from my million miles a minute. So, step two. So, the next step is narrowing it down. Where am I? Come on. Here we go. Okay, this is important. A lot of people get stuck in step one. They're experimenting. They're getting to know people. They're doing tons of volunteer work. They're gaining popularity. People are inviting them to stuff. They're gaining esteem. They're learning. But, oh my God, they're not making any money. Maybe they're neglecting other jobs that they have or other responsibilities, and they're coming out of balance. They're not driving their path very well at this point in time. So how do you get from step one to step two? You need to set limits on your volunteer work. I don't care if you've fallen in love with this, women empowerment hour, whatever. If you're working on it 20 hours a week and you're not getting paid anything and you've got bills coming due, you need to set some limits on that volunteer work. Learning how to say no respectfully and responsibly is really, really, really important in DAOs. In DAOs, you're going to hear a lot of yes, and that means yes to people offering help and yes to people accepting. Can you, Rada, mi amor?
Hi, Jovian. We can see your screen. We can see your screen.
Oh, you want to see my screen here?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Let me put it back on. Share your screen again. Here we go. Okay, narrow it down.
Thank you. We can see it now. Nate, can you see her screen? Can everyone see her screen now?
Yeah, it's working. Thank you.
Great.
Nice.
So step two is narrow it down. So learning how to say no respectfully and responsibly is a crucial skill in the wild, wild Web3 West. If you have started working as a volunteer on a project and you're bringing a lot of value, that team might be relying on you. So planning your own, like if you've done an audit and you're like, okay, I'm spreading myself too thin, I need to pay some bills, I need to reorganize stuff a little bit, your reputation is on the line for how you reassess and rebalance your work assignments. So this could be a time where planning a talk with your team or the groups that you're working with and figuring out how you can reduce responsibilities or hand things off and give them a timeline for when you're going to hand things off that you've already taken on. And then declining new projects respectfully so that you can get your focus from experimentation super wide, back into okay, these commitments were the most productive for me. I was learning the most, they were the most challenging, and I see potential for my own growth. So you're making that transition. your reputation as an accountable contributor is really, really important. So there are lots of DAOs. You can burn your bridges and go to another DAO, but if you don't, it's kind of like wildfire. Like, your positive reputation can get you introductions and get you assignments and get you to the front of the list for projects, or get you right into a team that already has a budget if you build a reputation as an accountable contributor. So when you negotiate saying yes to work, and how you negotiate saying no, and planning that intentionally and doing it with the other teammates, if you think that would actually help make those transitions better for everybody, is really important. Okay, narrow it down. Okay, a lot of people get this wrong, or they're just really scared of the governance process. They're like, I just want to talk to one person, and I want that one person to say, hey, I'm on this team, and I don't want to have to deal with this like public scrutiny. But decentralized organizations are, guess what? Decentralized. They're decentralized by means of the governance process, and by means of community and peer review, by means of transparency, feedback. They're council and community led. That's the way they work. So if we like that, we need to participate in the governance process. So, okay, so you've gotten from, experimentation phase in step 1, you've gone through narrowing things down, you've offloaded a couple of your, volunteer projects that have just gotten way too, unmanageable, and then you've identified one DAO or 2 DAOs where you're like, I really can make a difference here. And I've identified my path, I've written it down for myself, and I can really make a difference on this team. And I feel freaking jazzed about it. So at that point, you want to turn your notion into like your reality. So how are you going to do that? You need to use the governance process. So here's a way this could look. Now, if you do this wrong, you might not get the role you wanted. So I'm going to go through it. Every organization is different, but this strategy is going to resonate or kind of like apply to most DAOs. So one mistake that people make, and I'm just going to put this in the beginning, is meetings do not trump process in decentralized organizations. So if you had a meeting with the founder and they're like, you're in, like, okay, what does that sound like? Favoritism, centralization of power. That's not how DAOs work. Or if they do work and you hear someone saying, you're in, that could actually be the type of behavior that undermines the DAO's success in the long run. I've heard people do this. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen successfully. There's one power broker who says, you're in. But over time, that person's power usually will get broken up and things will go back into this decentralized process, because the decentralized process is what DAOs are founded upon. They're founded upon everyone sharing the responsibility to make sure the right people are in, and that the right people are getting the right access and the right tools, and that they're finding their way to drive the whole community forward. So if one power broker has a meeting with you and says you're in, and you think you're out of this process, well, for one, you're not learning some important and practicing some important skills that will make you stronger, like in your career. So you're not practicing important skills. And 2, you're feeding into this power broker who's actually, they think they're helping the DAO, they're actually hurting the DAO. Because the DAO also needs to practice peer review, peer feedback, and sharing that vision for the roadmap and assessing candidates together. So if you say, hey, hey, guild, hey, party guild, I want to be a party planner in the chat. Chat is a low-level signal. So don't be like, okay, now I'm done. No. It's great to start with a low-level signal. It's great to have a meeting with a power broker who can kind of help guide you, but that doesn't mean you're done. So let's put those together into a complete, advocating for yourself roadmap. So a really great way to move forward is to spearhead getting organized feedback, like creating a poll. There's lots of tools that can help you create a poll in Discord or otherwise, or use a medium of communication that builds in feedback. So a forum post allows people to give feedback and vote and upvote, whereas a Discord post is just going to be an emotion, and it's not really a clear signal. So next, push your proposal ahead and set timelines for review. So clarify what the role that you want, put it up in a place where it can get feedback, organize and respond to the feedback. And if you feel like things are waning, set a timeline. Say, hey guys, can I get feedback on this by Friday? Or I'm going to go ahead and put it up for a vote as a formal proposal. So if things feel stagnant and you're like, oh man, Jovian said, this is how I advocate for myself, but nothing's happened in 3 weeks. Did you set a timeline for review? Set a timeline, or do the poll over and set a timeline. Say this is dependent on this. Make people understand where we are in the process and drive the process. So then once you have the feedback, you have the review, write your proposal with the things that matter in the proposal. Don't add a bunch of stuff that you got from a Google search of what this role should do. Write the proposal authentically from your own point of view with the things that you know you're actually going to do as part of your work stream. Don't add a bunch of extra stuff, because people are going to look at that later and be like, well, you said you were going to also do this and this. And you're building your reputation around what you know you can do. Say it in your own words. Something that you can put into your proposals is timelines for review. So, hey, I want to have this role for 3 months because that is a manageable amount of time for me. I can see my life for the next 3 months. I can't see my life for the next, 6 years. So put a timeline on it. If that is important to you, put that timeline in there. One of the things that people do in DAOs is they never reach stability. And they kind of talk, I've heard in the research interviews, they talk themselves out of getting the stability that they need. It's a fundamental human need to have security and stability. But they talk themselves out of it because they think, well, Web3 is different. And then they kind of stability shame themselves for not being Web3 enough. So you can have stability, but that means you need to be proactive about the roles and the terms of the roles that you're taking on. So put in your very own proposal the things that make you feel stable. So, hey, I want to do this role, this work stream, and I want to do it for this amount of money for 2 months. And I want to be renewed at the end of the second month by this date. So create that stability process so that you have a very stable, recurring review cycle. There's going to be missing processes everywhere. There may be no other proposal at the DAO that has these kind of stability clauses built in. And I think it's important that we start advocating for our own needs and our own stability, our own review, that we speak really authentically about what we can and cannot do, and that we give ourselves a way out of situations where we don't feel passionate anymore or where we can't get our needs met. Don't Web3 shame yourself out of advocating for your needs. Your needs are real. They're not going away. So we might as well discuss them, and you can use the governance process for that. People will usually be very grateful that you're bringing up those difficult questions. Okay, I'm done. Any questions, comments, or situations that you might have been in that you want to ask about, or you're in right now? Or we're over time?
Question.
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Hi. So it was very nice for you to break down this process into these 3 steps. And my thoughts are that seems like investing a lot of time. So any quick tips in how to choose the right DAO? I know that sounds like asking for a lot, but maybe from your experience.
Yeah. So DAOs are usually connected by super connectors, who are human beings who have already done a lot of work to understand the kind of ethos of the DAO, the vibe of the DAO, how it works. And you can talk to one of those connectors and you can ask your questions, and then they can accelerate your learning. Yeah, one of the things about Web3 is there's this huge there is a big barrier to access. That barrier is usually time. It's unpaid time that needs to be spent on discovery and evaluation. So a lot of people take that on, as like a learning opportunity, and they have the time for it, or they make available time. But it is a problem, especially for people who have full-time jobs or families. They want to accelerate and get themselves to an answer sooner. A super connector might be able to tell you, hey, there's an active work stream that is paid, that is taking on people, and let's get you right in to talk about what you might be able to offer that work stream. Those people can help accelerate your path, but like this presentation is kind of showing you, it's not always available. And those super connectors can be like a positive and a negative, because they can be placing people in teams, and that could be destabilizing, like what else is happening at the DAO with the people who are doing that discovery process like organically. So if you get like pulled in and you get into a position of power right away, that could destabilize like other people who have been contributing and working towards a role. As far as choosing a DAO, that's such a cool thing. I mean, my favorite thing about DAOs is the pluralism, right? So in life, we used to not have so many options, and we used to just have to go with like basket A, basket B, or basket C. But with DAOs, you can actually be a part of a few different DAOs. You can see which ones you actually are jazzed about. Maybe you never thought of yourself as someone who really cared so much about social impact, but then when you start working with this social impact DAO, you're like, man, I feel great inside. I feel like I'm making a difference. I love social impact. Like, I want to do more social impact. You thought you were going to be all up in DeFi. You thought you were going to be in Sovereign, like making a bunch of money. But then you realized that you loved your time at a social impact DAO. So I think that process is like very personal for every person. What allows you to express and discover yourself more authentically, because all of the activities we do in life are leading us to knowing ourselves more. So I think that's a personal process that I encourage you to do, but hopefully in a manageable way. And nobody minds if you start as a volunteer and you have to pull back, as long as you're graceful about it and you're upfront.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer. Um, I was asking because we have a limited resource that is time, as you said, and I was maybe looking for red flags. So
Red
but you said one. I think it's a good one. If this process is not trial and error, and you are quickly, because of someone pulled you in, working in these work streams, maybe that's not the best sign, right?
It's possible, yeah, because that DAO isn't very decentralized.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, and have I been pulled into positions of power? Yes. However, my particular role is, and my particular specialty is in lifting other people up and in empowerment, like process. So people pull me in order to help be an enzyme to distribute power to other people. So I'm literally there to make myself antiquated. Like they're like, oh, all the power is stuck around the core team. We need, community wizards. So then they might bring in somebody like me who will quickly try to just learn about the community, learn about who's there, and distribute power quickly and form teams. So my situation is often different than like a contributor situation, or maybe you have a very specific skill set that's absolutely crucial to the team, like being able to move forward. A lot of times that is solidity, like a particular development language, and they'll pull somebody like that in. But then that person is like behind in the acculturation process, so they're adapting to the culture. They've been brought in, but they're adapting to the culture, and we want them to feel, just as authentic as people who kind of grew with the community.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions about advocating for yourself or real situations that you face and got stuck? Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, define the terms, and then you'll have the power. It's a huge opportunity to be able to advocate for yourself, but if you're coming from another space, you've probably never done it before. So this is a skill that we really want to teach and create workshops and more educational materials about at Social Tech Labs. So I'm going to share my last slide. Bing, bing, bing. So the full report on our research is coming out in September. It's going to be available open source. Most of this research was paid for by a grant from Meta Gamma Delta, which is a women empowerment DAO. They paid for most of this research to happen. I paid for the rest. And we're really excited to share the findings with everyone and turn this into some great learning, some content, workshops that can help contributors kind of find their way and succeed more and fail less in the wild Web3 West. So thank you so much for your time. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Jovian. This session has been wonderful because, yes, we get to know how to advocate for ourselves in the Web3 space. Let me stop this first.